It's another week in the For Your Reference household, but more importantly, it is another Pride Month in the For Your Reference household.
Woohoo!
Bow, bow, bow. See, that's us indulging in pride, but not occupying the dance floor, right, OT? Speaking of Pride Month, make sure you take some time to check out the other episodes we've covered in the past Prides of A Single Man, Rafiki, The Sum of Us, Edge of 17, Baby Spoiler. Also check out our Pride and Prejudice and Bridget Jones episodes. Let's get into the show. Come on aboard, friends and lovers, as we celebrate Fire Island this week.
Woohoo!
OT. I am still riding high. How are you feeling?
Yeah, it's wow. I had fun with this.
Oh, absolutely. In regards to general information, this was released in the holy month of Pride in June of 2022. We have director Andrew Ahn and writer, every global extraordinaire, Joachim Booster. Delicious, lovely, beautiful time we have ahead of us, OT. Except for one particular gripe, friends and lovers, you can win without any clues, without any OT Hardy boys. You probably already know what this is, particularly if you've listened to the Pride and Prejudice, Bridget Jones, or any time I fucking talk about Colin Firth. You probably know what my Delroy Lindo quarrel is with this. But let's get into general casting call. We have Joachim Booster, Bowen Yang. You know when I'm feeling particularly down, I Google Bowen Yang SNL compilation.
Wow.
And it gets me right up there. The iceberg of the Titanic. Yes, please. Thank you very much. And also Margaret Cho. Wow. Let's get into first impressions, OT. You know, throughout this podcast, you yourself have been on a journey. You also mentioned in the Pride and Prejudice only recognized BBC miniseries that you watched and you became familiar with it for the first time. But that was a chunky. She was a chunky, thick miniseries, 6 episodes, an hour long. So you definitely got a lot to learn about Pride and Prejudice in general. I'm not particularly talking about that because I do want to talk about it after first impressions. But how did you feel watching this film?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It was sort of up there with our happiest season for me as well.
You know what I've also noticed as well? We've done 2 queer Christmas films over 2 different years. So there's Happier Season, which I did not care for.
Loved it.
Love Kristen Stewart, but I did not care for. And then also Single All the Way.
Yeah. Oh, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, don't worry about us just casually. But how? So you're saying it was similar to Happiest Season in the sense that the themes or the way you enjoyed it?
The way I enjoyed it, you told me going in that it's sort of an adaptation to Pride and Prejudice. So I went in thinking, okay, let's see what's gonna be. And for my sense of self, I'm not sure. I mean, I've been in the Pride and Prejudice as well for that much, but
the cinematic universe. Incorrect. There is no cinematic universe. It is only the BBC miniseries. Incorrect. #cancel OT.
Wow. But yeah, I was like, oh, okay. So I got a lot from your reactions and your commentary as well, because I would never put 2 and 2 together to try and sort of join up. Oh, this is a reference to whatever.
Bruh, the first line was the first line of the book.
I've watched the show. I've not read the book, but I'd forgotten about that.
But haven't you many times say if you've watched it, it's the same thing?
It is. It is. So don't come at me. But overall, I think I love the characters. They were fun. Seeing Howie, Noah was fun. I loved this Will. But yeah, I really had fun with this. I think I enjoyed every sort of character. It was lighthearted, and just fun.
I saw you looking at me when you said, Will, you're not going to bait me, especially in the month of Pride. Baiting in any sense will not be allowed, OT.
I know I will.
First impressions. So I have told you since 2021 that we are looking forward to this film. And I'm so excited that it's finally come out and we can talk about it. And absolutely, there are so many themes. And even you watching the BBC miniseries, there was a lot that you didn't even realize that you retained from watching it as well. So if I just focus on this film succinctly, I absolutely love everything about this film. I absolutely agree with you. Joel has a wondrously beautiful ability to be able to meld the go-to fan service of Pride and Prejudice, as well as be able to modernize it and I guess apply it in queer spaces. There's something really beautiful about this film, and it's like, if anyone can recall the You've Got Mail film and how I said I thought I felt about it before I rewatched it recently, this is how I felt about it, with all the good feelings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, without the snarky Tom Hanks.
Yeah, I know You've Got Mail was your favorite until you watched it with me.
I think that's the delineating factor. Yeah, absolutely. I love that this film exists. This is absolutely a way that you pay homage to quoting Joel Kim Booster, the Queen, Jane Austen. I never really got into other Jane Austens, I must say, but it's really hard to get past Colin Firth in the billowing blouse lake, to be honest. Wow, absolutely. But I guess my general first impressions is that I fucking love this film. This is going to be in heavy rotation when I need a good giggle gaggle and when I need a good cry. Because I did get emotional in this film, which is a surprise to no one. Give me some resonance, give me some loveliness, and I will find myself some sort of resonance. Absolutely. But I absolutely loved it. I will go into Noah's character specifically, but I personally got a kick, and I guess we can roll into Pride and Prejudice in a second, but I personally got a kick out of how easy it was to identify the characters of Pride and Prejudice into this gay film in 2022. Like, they weren't family. There was a lot of talking about chosen family, but the fact that it was so easy to identify the sister, like the Bennett sisters, it was beautiful. Thinking on it now, I guess you would say Margaret Cho would be the pseudo proxy Mrs. Bennett. So it would have been cool to see her get like super hysterical.
Yeah.
Alison Steadman is Mrs. Bennett in the BBC miniseries, and she's one of the best performances. Like, just absolute. Oh, you have no idea how I grieve.
Wow.
Just absolutely wild, beautiful, lovely. But I'm glad Margaret Cho is on it. Shout outs to Hacks, because it always happens to be Margaret Cho with lesbians on a boat. And I think that's essentially the history of Pride, right? Go and do the work, friends and lovers. If you retain that, that's on you. But we're going to get into the film. We're obviously going to continue to talk about Pride and Prejudice. And I'm abso-fucking-lutely going to continue to talk about Colin Firth. Fuck you, casting.
Wow.
I'm not hit him up, fuck you, but still, I'm feeling away.
Okay, I feel like this is a thread I want to pull. What was your reaction when you first saw Will?
I think I audibly said ew. I can see now that the fans of Star Wars aren't spoilt and radicalized.
Whoa.
That they have a truer understanding of the texts And I have the
Whoa.
same application in Pride and Prejudice. Like, it was an involuntary ew. And I don't know you, Conrad Rickamora, or as Mariah Carey would say, I don't know her. I don't know you, Conrad. But specifically in this film, what were you doing here? According to Keke Palmer, I am sorry to this man, but I do not know this man. Please vacate from my eyes. I do not like him. But this is going to turn into a whole Darcy fest. So we can leave that, but hopefully that's enough of a thread for you to pull on if you're nasty.
Okay. Yeah.
If you'll pardon the cuckold pun. I guess while we're getting to it, spoiler, inferior Darcy, inferior Darcy, inferior Darcy. Let's talk just generally about the themes. I just want to explore Pride and Prejudice and whether we felt it worked in this Fire Island film, because I feel like a lot of it translated, but I'll be interested to see if there's anything that you feel potentially did or didn't work. So broadly, there is a theme of social status, and I guess you could also call it class. In Pride and Prejudice, it is pretty straightforward. It's a 1-to-1 white input, white output sort of world. So in this, we have, the gays, and we have the hierarchy of the gays. And, if you've listened to a lot of the episodes, especially, the hip hop episode that we did recently, we talked about intersection, right? So the life of a gay person isn't the life of all gay people.
Right.
Especially the life of a white cis gay, right? It's not the same for everyone. So I actually really thought it played very well. We're talking about social status, so we're not necessarily talking about race, but it was very clear, even when we went to Cooper's house, it was very clear that they were dealing with different classes, especially with Aaron's half-drunken bottle of wine. Also we're going to get into Dex, but I thought it was so incredibly ridiculous, the meet cute that Noah had with Dex, and Dex breaks the cans and he's like, I'm poor too. But trauma bonding's not funny, but that was funny.
Trauma bonding is everything. What are you talking about?
Watch out for Cube for your reference edition, friends and lovers, with O.T. Quentin.
That was a cute way of introducing Dex into the story. At first, I didn't even pick up that would be Wickham. You, of course, did instantly. So I'm still young in the prejudice world. But yeah, elitism shows its head quite early. They get into once they enter the house and they're like, are you lost? Clearly, they don't fit into the picture of,
Braden, I think his name was.
And that just shows you how it is, sadly.
Like, it wasn't a question, it was a statement.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out. Like, yeah, I agree with you agreeing with me. I feel like the status, like the social status and the class, I think that was done quite well. Even when we see Will, I do believe if I were to pull my Pride and Prejudice strings, it would be a reference to the quote of not handsome enough to tempt me. So I think that was done very well. We're talking about the haves, we're talking about the have-nots. And I don't know about you, OT, but it became starkly aware how very elite, as you say, but at how white the top was.
Yup.
And I'm not even pardoning the pun because the pun's being bottomed right now.
Wow.
She's busy. She's got things to do. But I absolutely love the idea of the social class. Is there anything that you felt didn't work in this new adaptation?
I think I hated Will as Darcy less in this, just because I felt he didn't come off as stuck up as Darcy was in the BBC miniseries.
If you don't like my Darcy erotica, just say so.
No. It didn't come off as that stuck up. I think there was a level of, okay, I understand why Noah came off so strongly. Something that wasn't the same in Pride and Prejudice, where we get Elizabeth, who had done barely anything and then just overheard some really ridiculous comments.
Okay, all right. Well, you're forgetting that she was a woman of a particular time, so she couldn't really do anything. Sorry, Kim O.T. Kardashian. Get off your ass and work. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, it was more... I could understand Noah coming off as strong and him being like, what's this guy all about? That I could take. Or that at least I could see.
You look like you're about...
No. It just didn't come off as snooty as it did in Pride and Prejudice.
That's the fucking point, though. And that's why Will's not compelling in this film. But I meant generally. See, you keep trying to Darcy bait me.
No.
How dare you? How dare you? Not in mine household, not in the holy month of Pride. How dare you?
Mm-hmm.
Just because I say I don't like Will doesn't mean it's anything else you can try and construe during the holy month of Pride. How dare you?
No, we're comparing the two and what differences we saw. And that's one that I saw where I didn't feel like I truly felt the visceral reaction of seeing a smug Will / Darcy. It's more, okay, I could understand the comments taken within sort of a vacuum. And I was like, okay, some of the things he said make sense and I could go with it. But in Pride and Prejudice, I was just like, this is a stuck-up bitch, you know?
Hashtag not my Darcy. Join the revolution, friends and lovers. I'll see you in a damp, dark corner of the internet.
Wow.
Well, let's talk about the characters. We pretty much are centering Lizzie Bennet. So in this case, Noah. Let's talk about Noah for a bit. I love that Noah is a combination of the OG Lizzie Bennet as well as his own sort of personality. However, and again, I do love Joel Kim Booster. However, I don't care for the snark. I didn't care for the snark that Noah's character had. And I didn't care for the attempt at humor, which was just lying. Noah saying that he was a lawyer, Noah just making up random lies. And then also saying that they have another friend named Charlie. Like, what? That's just like dead air to me. What was the point of that? The snarkiness, again, I didn't necessarily care for. I feel like the only time it worked was the persnicketiness towards Will. Every other time, it didn't necessarily make sense. Maybe it was part of a personality trait. I don't necessarily understand. But I guess what I really enjoyed, and I guess this is more of the modern spin applied to Noah's character, was the idea of challenging the status quo, which I guess you could say for Lizzie Bennet, but let's focus more on Fire Island. Noah kept holding to account the straights, and I guess the problematic, fragmented, everyone's fucking miserable when they're married, pulling everyone down. Right. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. And even near the end of the film, we also got a great sort of resolution. And I'm saying resolution because I don't fucking ship them. You can have them on water. You can have all of the boats, but I do not ship. No partaking in the shipping, sir.
Wow. Yeah.
There'll be no shipping taxes around me. Thank you very much. I liked that Noah was very fervently non-monogamous without saying it outrightly. And Noah stayed true to that at the end of the film. Because I think particularly, obviously, with a lot of straight shit, it's usually the woman being like, I don't need no man. And then the end of it is like, I needed the man. And there's no challenging. And maybe it's a hallmark effect. Maybe it's having to be able to sell films and have a feel good sort of moment. We did get that through Howie, so maybe that was the leverage that was able to balance the dynamic in Fire Island. But I love that Noah was so aware of how the world worked and how monogamy doesn't work for everyone, regardless of sexuality. And, you know, Noah and Will kind of came to that. I don't necessarily feel it was organic, but I love that Noah stayed true to himself all the way through the film.
But didn't Howie say that was just brought up as a wall to protect himself from?
No, the inability to be vulnerable.
The inability to be vulnerable and feeling like he didn't deserve more.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with being monogamous.
So he does end up with Will, we can assume at the end of it, right?
If you can stick your dick in multiple people, you can be vulnerable with multiple people. Happy Pride, OT. I don't even understand your line of questioning, because that particular, very tender, there were very many tender moments throughout this film, and that was one of them. Howie's like, just be open to being vulnerable, because it's scary. It's fucking scary. And I guess also something that I was noting about the film as well was there was really no backstory about Noah.
I think I understand the stickiness that you felt towards Noah. I could see that. I liked him as a character. I think he didn't want to put his vulnerability out there, which is fine. So he found a way to make himself feel good, felt like he could belong without feeling any sort of shame.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that he really wanted to help Howie, even though it came off as him focusing on that task and not necessarily his friend and what he needed in the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't even draw a lot of parallels between him and, let's say, Elizabeth and Pride and Prejudice, because I felt like with Noah, I got to see who he was more, if that makes sense. Because this is a movie, we don't even get the 6 hours like before. I just felt like I connected with Noah a bit more. I got to see him struggle, and I could understand that. And it wasn't just for, Will is rich, I've got to get him, or that's my goal, which felt really pivoted towards the original Pride and Prejudice, where it was like, that's Darcy and Rich. I've got my eyes set on him. Those are an inkling of that.
OT, your man is showing.
Wow.
This is when women were married off like cattle. So what would you expect?
Because we're talking about people choosing people for love or whatever. I felt like this portrayed that more.
Women were the veal of the olden world. No, I'm serious, because this is the second time you've made a point of Lizzie just sitting there waiting to get carted off and married. Yeah, that was the kind of fucking deal back then. This is not the film that we're talking about here. Anyway, what I will say, the love that you were feeling by default for Noah is something that you brought. I don't necessarily feel like that was presented in the film, in the sense that we were given opportunities to care about Noah's character. So kudos to you, but I'm saying I don't necessarily feel that was presented in the film, because there was a lot of talk about not having a family, and I guess that was also through the narration, talking about how Erin kind of brought them all in, and all they need to do is pretend, like she's their proxy mom, and then Noah was like, but in my case, it's kind of true, right? And then there's a lot of talk about being protective and trying to look after, his chosen family. And, Joel is adopted in real life. Unless we're going to fill in the gaps with what we know about Joel, it was hard to understand, I guess, the obligation that Noah felt to make sure everyone was okay, because it could be argued there was a time that no one was there to look after Noah. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear that. Maybe it just resonates with his struggle a bit more and him.
Because man.
We can divorce ourselves from putting ourselves in sort of these boxes where we have to be, either for or against. It's more understanding the facets or the intricacies that make Noah operate the way he does. And I feel like I got that a lot more here, and seeing even like how the narration played a big role in filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
So I think that worked towards Noah's favor, where we couldn't really delve into his character development as much. The narration played a part in offsetting that a bit more and bridging that gap where, okay, you move from scene to scene, but that bridge is sort of covered and you get to see, all right, so how he reacts to Howie, Will, Dex, it's all woven intricately in terms of understanding his motives and his perceptions of life. Even him in the first scene we introduced with him and Johnny in the bed, and it's like, yeah, he looked like he wanted something more that I can't offer.
Yeah.
So it's moments like that sort of set the tone for me going in and seeing how he interacted with everybody. And I think that they just did it brilliantly.
Okay. But wouldn't you agree, or at least were wondering, because there was a lot of dialogue about, not being too attached to someone, and, everything could crumble. I guess you could also talk about the fact that Noah is non-monogamous, but didn't it also seem to have a sting of like someone hurt Noah? You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But that's what I mean. That wasn't laid out in the film. That's what I'm saying.
No, I felt like that was portrayed clearly by who he is as a character and what he said in the narration as well.
But that's assumed. You see what I'm saying?
But isn't that what a movie is? They can't just spell everything for us and be like, oh, let's do a montage of everything that's led to Noah up to this point. I remember us watching Single All the Way and you're like, mate, we need a bit more from you because this struggles thing didn't even come to play. I feel like I got, maybe assumed or not, rightly or wrongly, I got it.
Okay, well, fair. Like, I cared about Noah, but I'm saying I don't necessarily feel like it was spelled out in the film. That's all.
And that's fair enough as well.
Cool. Let's talk about Howie. I would say Howie would be the Jane of this particular outfit. How do we feel? Because obviously we love Bo and Yang, but how do we feel about Howie's character?
I love the fact that he wore his heart on his sleeve. He was ready to be vulnerable. He went along with the plan of just getting laid, but we knew he wanted more.
Yeah.
Getting laid, fuck that. At the end of the day.
That's how you get laid, by fucking.
But he did want that feeling. He even if getting hurt was the consequence, it didn't matter. He transversed that, and I think that's what really endeared me to him, because he's like putting himself out there in the mean bad world, knowing that he could get hurt any moment, and he expects to get hurt. Yeah, and that's the saddest thing. And I think that's one of the points where I even started getting emotional in the whole movie, because it's his vulnerability and him wanting to put himself out there despite all the odds.
Pride and Prejudice and Vulnerability is the title of today. It's fucking scary, man. Like, to put yourself out there without any sort of control on how it will be received is fucking scary, right? But to get to the level of depths of love, you need to take that risk. And that's exactly what we see with Howie. And you're absolutely right. A lot of the emotional moments, aside from the Vin Diesel family, is Howie, is everything that Howie is navigating. It's kind of presented from Noah's point of view. So it's as if Howie's busy and doesn't have time, but it's also later revealed that Noah kind of has never visited.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not necessarily an unreliable narrator, but we definitely see different types of ways to be happy. And it's fucking corny and it's cheesy and it's all of the rom-com goodness, but sometimes people want that, and that's what Howie wants.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think he he brings a soul into this. He brings the emotional pull.
He brings the Britney cover too.
He does. It's wild that I know you mentioned this when we were watching the movie, that it was a shame we didn't get an actual Britney rendition of Sometimes in there.
Yeah, like at that point, doesn't it feel anti? Like you've got two different covers.
Yeah. But wow, Howie is definitely, I think, my favorite in this.
Was there a part of you that felt like Howie and Charlie weren't going to get together?
No, I knew that they'd get together. It's just a matter of how. Mm-hmm. I'm just glad that they didn't make it too much in terms of, oh, now we're in love. They're like, yeah, slow your horses, mate. It's been 4 days.
Let's ground it a bit. Yeah. We're not setting the anchors yet.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it was going to happen because we need to have a fucking win. Like, even if it's through the vessel of a film, we need to have a fucking win. I wasn't rooting for Noah and Will to get together, but I was definitely rooting for Howie and Charlie, even with the element of the X, or as Maya would say, the case of the X.
Oh, wow.
Is that hip hop?
It is now.
Let's talk about the friends, the entourage, if you will. I want to talk about Keegan and I want to talk about Luke.
Yeah, there were the Dumbies in this one day.
Yeah. They were the Kitty and Lydia.
Mm-hmm. Fun to be around, party all the time. We got a bit more from Luke in terms of plot than we did
potential trigger warning
than we did with Keegan. And I think seeing what happened with Luke, with Dex, that was sad.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting how they sort of made it for this time and the sort of issues people are facing now.
Yeah.
And tackling it with Will as well, spitting out, the effects of revenge porn and all that. It's a thing that's happening, and countries are just starting to catch up on the laws,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of those topics where, not many governments are taking note of it, but it's an issue.
And I think if we add like extra layers to it, there is a general sort of disbelief of people that come forward, even with women, but even in regards to like gay men. Like, I don't think there is a general sort of space in the dialogue to have that conversation. And, I even think of I May Destroy You of Kwame. It's not necessarily a safe space to be able to come forward in regards to revenge porn in the LGBT community. And it's I think the way that it was handled in this film, I think was done very well, because again, unless it's a series like I May Destroy You, unfucking fortunately, instances like assault can happen just so, you know what I mean? Without having the moment to pause and reflect and be able to deal with it appropriately without 100 other things that are going on. So I really respect to Joel and the cast and crew that brought this film together and were able to handle such heavy fucking shit and had the courage to be able to do it, because it needs to be talked about, right? Something that happens so casually, it doesn't mean it's okay.
That's true.
And I absolutely agree with you. The way that it was modernized worked in Fire Island. Again, we're dealing with different moments in time with Pride and Prejudice. So as scandalous as the Wickham character was, it's obviously not a candle to what Dex did in Fire Island. However, I think it really drove home the point that Dex isn't great.
Yup.
I know Will said that that he made up a bunch of stuff to make it a bit more menacing, but I do hope in some sort of way, it can be addressed. There was a part of me that had to suspend a bit of belief because, again, unfucking fortunately, when it's on the internet, it's on the internet.
Yeah. as soon as it hit there, people fucking downloaded that shit.
Because we're the dial-up generation, so we grew up with the rapid changes of technology. So it was hard for me to suspend, delete it from your phone, delete it from your website. Okay, it's gone now.
Yeah, sadly it doesn't work like that, but
But I think it was enough to be explored in the film. I don't think they needed to, have a whole, situation.
Yeah, it definitely didn't need to turn into CSI Cyber or anything like that. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Let's talk about Max. We talked about how much we love about Howie, about how open and warm and feeling Howie was. And I would say you would be the Howie between the two of us. I would say I'm Max.
Really? Okay. I see that.
Like it makes me sad because compared to everyone else, Max is the very boring one. But I think the very boring, matter of fact, very dry one, which again, if we're talking about Pride and Prejudice, would be Mary. I'm surprised Max wasn't playing the piano while Howie was singing Britney Spears. I don't necessarily think Max offered a lot in the film, but that's kind of Mary's deal as well. What do you think?
Yeah, plus he was barely in it. So I think expecting anything plot-wise from Max would be folly. I think it was fun that Erin lost all her money as a first-time investor in Quibi.
Did Matt Damon tell her to be brave like crypto as well?
Yeah.
I don't personally, off the top of my head, know if Joel or Bowen had any sort of Quibi shows, but I would imagine that's more of a dig as opposed to like a painful story.
Yeah. Whoever thought Quibi would kick off is just, come on now.
I think they had the same vehicles that, according to South Park, the Family Guy riders have. It's just a big jumble together.
It is. Wow. But the sad thing was that she had to sell her house, and that will be the last sort of time they get to go to Fire Island.
Yeah. Well, no, they could pay for it themselves.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true. They could pay for something to go there, but I doubt it.
It's not the same.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. So one of the storylines that we had was Charlie trying to get back with his ex Reese.
Yeah.
And it was because he had Lyme disease and stuff like that. So is that something you would consider? Let's say, he's got Lyme disease or he's got an illness. Now I have to get back to him because of obligation.
Do you mean me personally or just a broad conversation?
You personally, broad conversation, however you want to take it.
I wouldn't envision a multiverse where we weren't together. Oh, Katie might be Howie after. Oh, fuck you guys. But if our Boys to Men End of a Road came to fruition, I would never, Oasis, look back in anger at our relationship. So if something were to happen to hypothetical you, I would be there for you 100%.
Wow, it's wild because I would be like, man, ship's fucking sailed, mate. Maybe you're Howie after all.
Well, I guess there is no hope for the straights. I guess that's what we found this month. That you did me dirty, Doug. But I guess in regards to Charlie, like I think it's understandable. I think it's an understandable human emotion to want to make things right. And I don't even mean like Bobby Brown mounting a ghost coming back to haunt you type of thing. I just mean, you want to do the right thing. You want to be right by that person, especially if their time is deliberately or decidedly finite. So in that particular sense, it made sense. It was frustrating, but it absolutely made sense. And, you know, a lot of the characters felt very real. And I think that's what I also really enjoyed, because I was hot off the trail at the start of this episode. But I do want to lay out the fact that I really enjoyed this film. Will was really the only thing that I didn't care for. And I guess while we're giving love and splooshes, shout outs to Peppermint, even though I'm blaming Will again. Will got in the way and Noah trying to have their cutie, non-cutie, snarky conversation while Peppermint was doing her thing in the background. Also, I did not care to see Will dancing like that.
What did you care for when it came to Will?
You know what you should have done? You should have just recorded me watching it, because I am just feeling all in a huff right now. I verbally said ew. It has nothing to do with Conrad specifically. I understand the Star Wars fantasism. I get it. I understand why there's a stewardship of maintaining the purity of fictional characters. I understand it.
Wow. Colin Firth can't mean everything. You know that, right?
I'm going to get Firth Vision. I'm going to get Firth Vision, and that's what I'm going to use my money. You know, when people go to like reality TV shows and they say they're going to donate that money to charity, fuck that shit. I'm going to insert Colin Firth wherever I can. Thank you very much.
Yeah, fuck administration fees. That's where money ends up.
I can tell you where you can administer Colin Firth if you're nasty.
Yeah. But you know what? Overall, I had a good time with this. The themes it covered, I enjoyed. I appreciated the efforts in some of the societal issues they raised, you know, and it was a good, fun movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess also at the same time, you know, I talk a lot about Black films aren't just for Black people. It can be enjoyed by everyone. You know, films made by gay people can be enjoyed by everyone.
100%.
Ooh, friends and lovers, drink some water, stay hydrated. It's going to be a long month otherwise. We're going to finish off in a segment we call For Your Reference. OT.
Just so we can get Conrad Ricamora some love, I'm going to reference How to Get Away with Murder.
I can't veto. We've never tried vetoing each other's references.
Wow.
I still feel away. Star Wars fans, I'll write you a guidebook.
Ridiculous.
Well, I am obliged. My splooshes point me in the direction of the BBC Pride and Prejudice miniseries.
You're feeling happy, eh?
Well, if you found your happiness on Twitter and Instagram, we're at ForYourFpod.
Write us an email at hello@f1podcast.com.
We're also on OT, Don't You Dare Give Me the Villain Edit podcast if you'd like to give a rating and review. And we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Happy Pride!